Hey folks, Aaron here. Welcome back to an anime review. Today we're looking at ReLIFE Kanketsu-hen, which is the 4-episode OVA adaptation of the ReLIFE story. It is just the ending of sorts, I should say, really, more than else. It wraps up ReLIFE, which came out in 2016, all in one shot on Crunchyroll. It was one of the few series that first do that, by the way, which, you know, anime was typically always released weekly. ReLIFE came out in one fell swoop. Like, all the episodes, all 13 episodes were one shot, you could watch them. ReLIFE, I read the webtoon series, which is what the series is based off of, and it was still ongoing when the ReLIFE, anime came out, so that's why I think they went with that route of kind of having this OVA series kind of be the conclusive ending of it once the series ended, which the webtoon series did end about last week, I want to say, or maybe 2 weeks ago now. So, in case you guys are completely new to ReLIFE, I'll tell you this right now. From this little part, I'll tell you the synopsis of ReLIFE in case you guys forgot. But then from then on, after the synopsis ends, and I'll say, hey, listen, so we'll talk about the OVA. And when I say that, please understand that I'll be talking about the OVA. I won't be spoiling things about it, but it will spoil story elements of the first season. So do not watch this if you haven't seen ReLIFE originally. It's like I said, it's all available on Crunchyroll. You can watch it there. It's also available on Blu-ray and DVD, so you can watch that too if you need to, whichever way you want to watch it. But I don't want you guys to get spoiled. So our main story, and by the way, I'm looking up the names because I'm terrible with names, as many of you guys know, and I want to make sure that I remember certain people's names. Kazuki Arata is our main character of ReLIFE, and he's a 28-year-old man who has basically found his life to be kind of shitty for the most part. He has been finding his jobs not really that good. His first job that he had, which was like after high school and after college, did not turn out that well. It caused a lot of pain and heartache on him, and some other things that were shown in the series really kind of just got to the point that it ruined him as a character. Until, he met this man named Ryu who told him, hey, we can give you a chance at kind of changing your life for something way different. We would give you a pill called the ReLIFE pill. It would make you go back to when you were 18 years old. So his body would change to an 18-year-old. It's not like he would go back in time or anything like that, but he would be then put into a high school. He would get to live his last high school year and, just kind of enjoy what life is. Maybe find a new way of going about life. Maybe find some happiness that he just didn't discover before. And, of course, because Arata was then promised also that if he goes through the experiment successfully, he'd be given a job. He goes, oh, hell yeah, I'll do it. So he ended up going through it. And that's where the 13-episode series starts, where we start seeing him go through everything. He meets, various characters. He meets, like, for example, Rena, Oga, who are two of the main, I want to say, best friends of him. I mean, they're like the couple of the group. He also meets Chizuru, who is the main girl, the main romance of him. But seeing that at first, he's like, I don't know if I could date a high schooler when he's a 28-year-old man. He might be in the body of an 18-year-old, but he's still a 20-year-old man. It causes a lot of friction sometimes with him. It's like he's like trying to figure out, should I do this? Should I not do this? What should I do? And the fact that everyone would forget about him in a year after the ReLIFE experiment too, it's always kind of something that weighs on him slightly in the beginning of the ReLIFE story. Now, that's the end of the synopsis though, so I'm going to go talk about the OVA series. So again, if you haven't seen the OVA, click off now. I don't want you guys to get spoiled. The OVA series ends the webtoon series that we saw, and it ends the anime series for the most part. Now, the problem with the OVA, and I'm not going to get, like I said, I'm not going to spoil things for you too much, but it's that it's taking what essentially was, I think, almost like 100-something chapters, I want to say, maybe slightly less, maybe slightly more, but it's adapting them into 4 episodes. And I knew for a fact that when I heard that was going to happen, I was like, oh my god, this is going to be a huge chunk of the story missing. On one hand, Kanketsu-hen does a good job of keeping a lot of the major points that we need to have in the story conclusive. It actually has a decent amount of stuff that is from the webtoon series, but it doesn't have too much of the fluff that was there too, which I want to say the last 100 chapters before the ending was kind of fluff here and there, but it does a good job for the most part. It's the last episode that I have the biggest problem with, and even the episode before that I kind of have issues with, but the last episode skips a lot of the stuff, and it even changes how the ending is slightly here and there. I mean, is it horribly done with the last part of the ending? No, it's not horribly done, but it does change it dramatically in terms of certain characters. Like, for example, Oga's character, we learn about in the original series having a, and this is back in the webtoon, by the way, I'm not talking about the anime. The anime doesn't describe this until the OVA talks about it a little more, but the webtoon series explained earlier. Oga has a brother who's a shut-in, and his brother is, basically neat. for the most part, and he's always worried about that. He's always had that in the back of his mind. So, Kazuki's character, after the ReLIFE experiment ends, and this is, I don't want to say a spoiler per se, but it should be kind of expected. But once the ReLIFE experiments end, he gets a new job. He ends up deciding to be a supporter himself. He wants to help people that go through the ReLIFE program. And that's where, he meets Olga's brother now. But the thing is that the way they did it in the webtoon series is vastly different than the way they did in the anime, which is like really fast. It's like this really quick footnote that happens, and I really hated the way they did that, but lo and behold, they decided to do that. And I mean, like I said before, I understand that they had to speed things up because it's only 4-episode OVA, but I would almost thought maybe you should have did like 6 episodes. I think you could have done 6, and that would have been way better. You would have had a little bit more fleshed out story. You would have more sections that you could have did. But I digress. It is what it is, unfortunately. But Kanketsu-hen, like I said, does an adequate job, probably the best way I could put it, of keeping what is important in the story, so you can understand where everything's going, you can get the idea of everything, and you can go and then just go, hey, I get how it ends. And for the most part, it's enjoyable. It doesn't end poorly. I like the ending of the webtoon series a lot better, but the anime OVA ends it on a nice note that everyone should be like, oh, okay, that wasn't too bad. I know I definitely could see people kind of complaining about it, and I would understand why, but if you really don't want to be a super critical person with this, you'll see it and be like, oh, I think it's a decent romance story. It's enjoyable for what it does. Really, the OVA kind of focuses more on Chizuru, who has this, who we find out in the last episode of the original series, we find out was also an experiment too of the ReLIFE, and is going through the same process that Kazuki is going through. But the thing is the way they do it is, I want to say a little rushed. Like the thing is that the webtoon series, like I said before, does it slightly better, where they go through certain amounts of her details and stuff, and they show more of a job, and they show more of what happened to her, but they don't do that in the OVA too well. And it's like, I think what ultimately I'm trying to get at, and probably without spoiling, because like I said, I don't want to spoil it for the people who haven't seen it yet, but think of it this way. The webtoon series had time to be fleshed out and to explain everything really nicely. The 4-episode OVA coming out in one shot, and also the way it is, it skips a lot, and it's a noticeable skip, especially if you read the webtoon series. Even if you haven't, you're going to notice that it feels like certain things are just flying by. You're like, oh my god, this has happened, it just happens real fast. So, it's definitely probably one of the biggest faults of the ReLIFE OVA is that, it feels rushed at times, and I think even the ending kind of feels a little bit rushed, to be honest with you. But is it bad? No, it's not bad. The animation at times actually looks way better than the original ReLIFE that came out in 2016, and there are significantly better animation moments during the last 2 episodes which look really phenomenally well done. Especially this one scene on Ferris wheel. That scene looked gorgeous. I was like, holy shit, that was a beautiful cutscene in terms of animation and everything. But, for the most part, I said cutscene like it's a video game, you know what I mean though. But for the most part, the ReLIFE OVA series does look adequately better than the 13 episodes that we got from the first season. But the thing is that if you're going into this with issues already of ReLIFE, OVA won't change your mind. A lot of the stuff that had problems with, like, terms of animation style, even how certain characters don't look like they're fully, developed, for the most part, like, the main characters, they all have designs to them, obviously, but the students and everyone else that's, not important, they, their blue, pink silhouettes for, just representing their gender, and then at times when they're in the actual shot, they have, actual definitions, but otherwise they're back to silhouettes. If you have issues with the animation from ReLIFE, originally it's going to be the same thing. Even in terms of story, you're going to probably have some issues with it. So, here's the thing I'm getting at. Is the OVA bad? No, it's not bad. It's very hard to put it in a way that's how do I describe it to you guys without kind of spoiling this or that? It's hard because I don't want to go into super amounts of detail and go, oh, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. I don't want to do that because then it would just tell you what exactly happens. I will say that the last episode is very emotional in one part, especially if you don't know what to expect. If you read the webtoon series, it won't have that same impact. It really didn't affect me too much, but it still was kind of sad in a way. But the thing is with the OVA of ReLIFE, I wish it would have lasted longer. That's probably my biggest issue with it. And I wish certain things were addressed with it in terms of animation style. Even some of the music was kind of... There was one song during this one romantic scene that I was like, why did they choose that one? Why? It's talking about sex, and yet they're hugging each other. What the hell? Why was that the chosen song for that? I was very surprised by that. But other than that, I enjoyed the OVA. It was okay. That's why if I had to review it between an A through F, I'm gonna give it a C. I think that's an adequate score for it. I gave it a 7 on Mal. I was almost thinking of giving it a C minus, but I think it does everything enough that's like, okay, it's a C. It's gonna be something average. You're not gonna think it's gonna be amazing, and if you really didn't like the first part, you're not gonna really care for the OVA, so it's not really gonna change your mind or blow you away. But it does everything where it wraps up the story, and you know how many shows actually do that. If you really think about it, how many shows that we've had that, you know, have manga adaptations for, like, you know, then become anime adaptations, do they actually finish the story? Like, they don't tell you, go read the manga now if you want the rest of the story. It's very rare. I would really highly recommend, though, guys and girls, to definitely check out the ReLIFE webtoon series. I believe it's on Crunchyroll's site too, but you can also look it up on various other sites. They have it. It did, like I said, it's all finished now, so you can definitely binge it. And it's like 200, I think, 220 chapters or something like that, I think, after everything. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Anyways, I will talk to you guys later. I hope you enjoy this review. If you do, please think about hitting the like button, subscribe to the channel, sharing the video around, and you know the whole nine. Until I pass across again next review, everyone, God bless you all. Have a great, blessed day, everyone. I have one other review today, which I should be Dame X Prince Anime Caravan. I'll probably have that out tonight. I'll talk to you guys then. Bye-bye, everyone.